Hello, my name is Paul Bartlett. I'm a wood turner here in Southwest Florida. I'm just putting together a quick video that I really wasn't planning on doing on my latest project, and which I call the ant farm. And so I didn't take too many pictures or do too many videos along the way, so I tried to cobble together enough where you could kind of get an idea of how I did it. So that's basically what's going to happen here. I put a few photos together and narrated them in a few videos, and we'll see how it all works out. So thank you for watching. Here is my setup that I cut my rhombus shaped pieces. I call them diamond shapes. And I decide what size I want and cut the boards that width. And the secret to cutting these things is the golden ratio, which is 1.618. So the distance between the two short points on my diamond shapes here, if that was, let's say that was one inch, then the distance between the two long points needs to be 1.618. And that needs to be done as close as can be. So whatever the distance between your two short points is multiplied by 1.618 will give you the distance between the long points. So, and the angle, I had laid it out, the angle is 26.564. So in order to get those have to be as close as you possibly can. So you're going to need to do a few setup pieces. And then I just cut all my pieces. Then I create I found clip art on the computer and found an ant shape I liked, sized it to where I wanted it, and drew a box around it for the shape that I wanted, and I print them out on the computer and cut them out, and they now have sticky back on them, so I can stick them onto my blocks. That way I use them for the pattern for cutting the legs, which you will see later in another video. So, and to drill the holes, this was my drill press setup. You'll see more of that in a short video I include in here. Now going back to these blocks here, one thing that I don't show anywhere along in the video is that these four sides, once you get the ants all in there, all the pieces in, everything sanded nice and flat, smooth, all four of these sides need to be cut at an exact 18-degree angle. So I get the sled out of here, tilt my blade over 18, check it, triple check it for 18 degrees, cut my piece, check my pieces until I get a constant 18 degrees, which is very important. And when I cut them, I cut them just shy of the top surface. That way I'm not changing the size of my block at all. If you get up into the top surface, then you're going to change the size of your block, and that's probably not going to work. So it's just shy. When you turn your sphere on the lathe, you're going to turn all that down anyway. So that's it for this part of it.
Okay, I wasn't really planning on making a video on this ant project, so I'm trying to patch in a few areas that I didn't cover. So this is how I drill my holes for the ants, where I put the walnut dowels in later. So I have my blank with the ant label on there. I made up a fixture that's this one's out of some scrap stainless steel I had. I drilled the hole pattern in there that I need. And on the back, I've just epoxied on a little thing to hold them in place. So what I do is I always put the ant in antennas first, like this. Okay, so it's in like that. And I just hold it like that. And I drill a hole. This is my 3/8 hole. When I did this originally, I had two drill presses set up, this one over here, so I could just go from one to the other. But for this little makeup video here, I'm doing it on the one thing. So here's my 5/16 drill bit. Now I will go in, let me see if I can get my hand out of the way here. I really can't do that. I'll try to do it this way. Okay. So now I'm going to drill the head of the ant, 5/16. Okay, so I do them all that way, and then I go over on the bandsaw and cut all the legs out, which I have a video for that. So that was just a quickie on how I do that. I'll come back later after I have the legs in and the dowels in these two. I'll come back later and I will drill one of the 1/4-inch holes. I will put the dowel in that, sand it flush, come back a third time and drill in the second 3/8 hole, or second 1/4-inch hole. So there's like 3 steps into the drill press to do it. And because they overlap, there's no way you could do it any other way, as I know. So that's the way.
Okay, when I was building my ants for my ant farm project, I had forgot to video any part of how I put the veneer into the legs. So this is just a quick one to show you basically how I did it. I used veneer I bought many years ago here. It's about 23 thousandths thick. You know, I cut strips off with the grains going this way. I cut strips this way. That way it'll kind of bend around or the shapes of the legs. So I just I use a paper cutter to cut the strips. I just cut a couple strips here that I need. Okay, that's how I do that. I usually, if I got a lot of them, I'll set up a stop. Otherwise, I just made a couple marks and to cut these two off. So here's what I do. I have the veneer and I have my legs all cut. As you can see, I cut in from the outside on the bandsaw, and I cut with the grain so that I put another piece back in there, you won't even notice it for the most part. So, and I've drilled my 3/8 hole and my 5/16 hole, bandsaw the space between them, where the overlapping quarter-inch holes will go later. So right now I'm going to put the veneer in the legs. Now these slots are about 43 thousandths thick from the bandsaw, and this is all the veneer, as I said, is only 23 thousandths. So it allows me to get the veneer in there fairly easy. I don't worry too much about it if it breaks coming around the corner, which it usually does. That all gets, I take all of these, and when it's all done, all the pieces for the ants are in there, and it's sanded flat. I put tape around them, leave the tape up about 3/16, quarter of an inch, and I put epoxy in there. The epoxy fills all the voids, and as you see in any close-up of the ants, it's very hard to see where there's how the thin veneer, there's no spaces or gaps or anything. It comes out good. And so here we go. So what I do is I just kind of guess at the length, put my thumbnail there, I just break that off. Now I got a little piece, and I start at the outside edge here, and I kind of work it around, and it will break and snap, but that's okay. And then I put it in. So there, I put one in. As you can see, I think you can see the corners kind of broke and gapped open there. I don't really worry about that. And I'll put the other one in. Broke, so I just put that little piece in there. Continue on. That one in there like that. Now I'm going to break this other piece off here in the middle because it was in my way, and I can actually stick that right back in here.
And that's good enough. So there's the two back legs are done. And I just continue the process. The two back legs are the hardest. Sometimes you get lucky and it'll go right in. There's the next two legs. I save these little pieces because you always end up picking one up, using it somewhere. And now I'm going to do the two front antennas of the ant. Okay, so those are in there. Looks like I had one piece fall out here. Sometimes I'll just put a little glue on here and stick that in there just to hold it until it gets epoxied in. Now, okay, so I have them all in like that. Now what I do, just to hold them in there, after I get them all done, I just take thin, lay these all out, and take thin CA glue and just kind of put run a little bit all around the edges here I can actually do that here now. You can see how I do it. Okay, here's my thin CA glue, and all I do is just do a little like that. Okay, and then I just let it dry. Also, I didn't do it here, but I have little pieces that I cut out of the same wood that'll go in this, fit in this slot here.
Okay. After all the ants all the pieces are in place, everything is sanded smooth. I put tape around them, as you can see here in the picture. I use the Gorilla tape. It works really well. Releases from the epoxy without a problem. And I pour on top of each one of these blocks, I pour probably 1/8 of an inch or more epoxy into every one. And if you'll notice, they're setting on, I have these like flexible cutting boards that have a smooth side on them. I have them all setting flat on that. And when I pour the epoxy in, what happens is, because the veneer, I put like 23 thousandths veneer into a 43 thousandths wide cut. And they weren't perfect. Some don't go all the way to the ends and things like that. By pouring this epoxy in there, it soaks down through any of the voids, anywhere. Epoxy, if there's a place for epoxy to leak, it'll find it. And that was my intent here. So the epoxy sinks down, and there's plenty of it. That's the reason for doing 1/4 of an inch or 3/16 of an inch of epoxy on top, because it'll soak down through and fill all the voids, and it works quite well. So I do that to all of them. And then here's a close-up of some of the ones that were done. And if you can see, if you look really close, for the most part, you don't see any voids or anything, you know. So I'm quite happy with that. And as you can see, in most cases where I cut in to get started, you don't even see that. I can see it. There's one there. You know, you can see it, but that one there's pretty bad. But I don't have, I've got extras, so I probably won't use that one. So that's what it looks like. That's the secret to making these ants look like you filled them solid. And so that's it. Okay, here's a few pictures of the assembly I did. I didn't do a lot of pictures. So there's 30 of these shapes into each sphere. And at first I thought, well, maybe I could do them all together at once, but I got about halfway through that idea and realized it's not going to work. So I did them in pieces. So I made 5 of these, putting 3 together. Then you put these 5 together, and it gives you the major diameter of your sphere. And the thing you need to make sure of is that when you put these 5 together, is that you have these horizontal ones all facing the same direction. There they are, glued up into a circle. And now I would put one piece at a time in, finish the top, turn it over, and put one piece at a time and finish the bottom. I let the glue set for, 5 or 10 minutes in between pieces. And so there's everything is in this one except for the last piece. I keep my 10-inch or my 12-inch diameter disc sander. I tilt the bed at 18 degrees. And as I'm putting these together, I know everything is supposed to be perfect, but in my world, it never is. So you have to touch up a little bit here and there when you put them together. So I just go over to the sander and just touch it up where I need to. And then I put the last piece in and glue it in. And here are the finished ones. I did one sphere in the very beginning, just to make sure that I wasn't going to have some problems, unforeseen problems. So it went quite well. So I went on and finished the other 3 to give me 4 spheres. And as you notice, the epoxy is still on the surfaces of all of these. It gets, almost all of it gets turned off, but it's all I do when I finish with the that epoxy method I had showed where the epoxy soaks through, I take those all and I run them through the drum sander until all is the same thickness, cleaned up and in the same thickness. And then I just touch the edges up, and then I cut my angles on them after that. So that's it.